Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today I want to make a little billfold, but it's not for your money, it's for other little things. And it is this very sweet little traveling case, and it has a little Velcro closure, and it has a pocket inside and a double pocket so that you can put a notebook and a pen, and on the outside there is another pocket. And you can use these for a lot of things. I have one that I have and I use it with some sewing notions. And I have another one that I use for note cards. They're very easy to make, they're quick, and you can use up a lot of leftover fabric for this because they don't have to match. They can have mismatch on them. And the one I'm going to make today is going to be done with a whole bunch of leftover fabric. Now I'm going to give you all of the sizes and the directions to finish this project. If you are following along with Superior University, it is class 105 and they call it a notebook cover. But I'm going to give you the directions and the measurements on how to do it. And let me show you the fabrics that we are going to need. You are going to need 2 rectangles at 5.5 by 14, and one will be the outside and one is going to be the inside. Now this will come with 3 pockets, so you need 3 more rectangles. They're going to be 5.5 inches by 11 inches, and when they are folded in half, it will be a 5.5 inch square. And this is a great time to even use leftover fabric and piece them together. As long as you have the rectangle at 5.5 by 11, so it's folded to be 5.5 by 5.5, that fabric's going to be perfect. Now you can take these to the iron and get them pressed right away, and we can do the stitching on them afterwards. The next thing you're going to need is a piece of fabric 3 inches by 4 inches. And this is going to be a little tab. So you need to press that. And you need to take that and press it over to a 1/4 inch up at the top of the long side. And then it needs to be pressed in half and then half again. And that is the pressing that you need to do for this. So all of these things need to be pressed nice and flat. Your tab and your 3 pockets. Then we're able to go to the next step. The thread I'm going to use in the bobbin is So Fine from Superior Threads. And it is a great all-purpose thread. It has a lovely shine to it. And it's fine enough to put in the bobbin, and you can sew with it on the top. But on the top, I'm going to just kick it up a notch, this very shiny thread, and it'll be good because then I can have very similar colors on both sides. And it is called Trilobal, and it is a beautiful thread. It has a lovely shine to it, and you can see the difference on an all-purpose to see how the shine is on this. So I'm going to use this on the top. I'm going to put this in the bobbin, and it is just going to kick this up a notch and just give it some fun color. We're also going to need a piece of this Soft and Stable. And what's really nice about the Soft and Stable is it feels like there's already a fabric on it. It has a bit of a soft fabric, almost like a flannel, and your fabric sticks very, very well to this. Instead of a quilt batting inside, it's a foam, and what that does is it keeps its shape and it doesn't crush down as easily. Now if you don't have this, you could use quilt batting. That's not a problem. The other bonus with using this is if you want to quilt on top of this, you do not need to put a fabric on the bottom because it already has a finish. That's not going to get caught. Now the next step is going to be able to sew the Velcro onto this little tab. So you will need to take the rough side of the Velcro to put it on this little tab. And it is going to be stitched right here up at the corner. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can stitch this when it's all closed, or you can open it up and stitch it here first around the Velcro. So you secure the Velcro on. Then you would fold that back in half and you would top stitch all the way around. By doing that, you will not see the stitching of the Velcro here. But it's not going to hurt if you're going to stitch this together first. Then you can sew the Velcro on last. Either way is going to work fine. These two, I just used a straight stitch at the top because I already had enough going on in this particular fabric. But for this one, because it was made with leftovers, I ended up with a white piece in here, so I put a little hello. But you could put a name or you could put any message you want. So I have the 3 pockets done and the tab done. Now all we need to do is construct a little billfold. So the next thing we need to decide is what's going to be the lining and what's going to be the outside. I'm going to choose this to be the outside, and I have placed it on top of the soft and stable. So we are going to need to sew the Velcro on it, and that would be the opposite side. So you need to find the center. And if you have used this measurement, you will need to go over 2 3/4 and then go up 2 inches, and that's going to be your center mark. The center of that mark is where the center of the Velcro is going to go. And you just need to stitch that Velcro on, going through all the layers. Now you could at this point quilt this a little bit just to give it some personality. You could have even used an old quilt block, but I'm going to show you the quick way of doing this. Take it to the machine and sew a very scant 1/8 of an inch. You basically just want to hold this top fabric down. Now the next part is just assembling it. The first pocket, and this is going to be the outside pocket. It needs to come right side up and not on the side of the Velcro. The next thing is this little tab, and it will go on the same one as your outside pocket, opposite to where the Velcro is sewn on. And it is going to be facing up, and it is in the center. The next pockets are going to go with the right sides down. Now each of these pockets, the fold is facing to the inside, so all of the raw edges are here. Then we have the last pocket, which is another inside pocket, and that pocket is also going to go right sides down. And the raw edges are all here. And the lining fabric is going to go down. Now pin so it stays nice without shifting. And then you need to sew, leaving a little bit open here. I would definitely catch the stitching into the pockets, but just leave a little bit opening in here because you will need to turn this right side out. And the other thing you need to do is when you're stitching, instead of stitching these corners square, get your spool and draw a line on each corner so that you're able to curve the seams as you're sewing, and that will give it a nice finish. So I've stitched all the way around 1/4 inch, leaving an opening here. And you can see that I had no problem stitching over top of this. Now you need to trim off the corners, and we are going to turn it right side out. So if you have the pocket in the wrong place, just flip the pocket over to the other side and poke out your corners. Now take this to the iron and give it a good press to make sure all of your seams are nice and flat, and tuck in this little corner and just give it a little pin, because the next stage we're going to top stitch all the way around. So the stitching has been done all the way around. Now we need to do 2 rows of stitching here, and that is just going to make it so that it turns nice and it has a nice edge along here. You need to measure over from your pockets 1 1/4 inch and draw a line, and then 1 1/4 inch and draw a line. Now I'm going to stitch down both these lines. The next thing you need to do is do some sewing into the pockets. Measure over from the corner 1 1/4 inch again and just stitch down, and the pen will fit in that dimension. And the rest of the size will actually fit one of these little spiral notebooks. Now at this point, if this is not what you're going to put in it, you can customize these pockets to whatever size you want, or you can just leave them open. I'm going to have one open to the full size, and the other one's going to have a pocket and a pen pocket. So the pen fits in that 1.25 inch seam, and this will slide in quite nicely. And you're all set, and you do have still the outside pocket. It's a very easy project, it's quick, and where you did all of the straight stitching, you could always substitute that for some fancy stitching on your machine. It's always nice to have a chance to use that stitching on your machine. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. I'll put a link in the description to the sizes that we used here today and to Superior Thread University, just in case you want to join along. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.